Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's July 16th, 2022 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Select Board will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and our parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public and committee members may attend the meeting in person, or for those who wish, may do so remotely. For those who are not in person, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to Mass General Law 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of a public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body, may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recording. This meeting is being recorded by the Berkshire Eagle, Berkshire Edge, Town of Great Barrington, and other members of the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may, in fact, be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Starting the meeting with a joint Select Board and Fire District meeting, so I'll take a roll call for the Select Board. Garfield Reed. Here. Eric Gabriel. Here. Ed Abrams.
Here. Can you hear me?
Davis? Yes, I did. And Steve Bannon here. Buddy?
Well, thank you for inviting us to the meeting. It's your meeting, but I'll take a roll call meeting for us to do an open meeting. Bill Foster,
William Foster here.
Bill Brinker,
Here.
Ken Schumacher.
Here.
Walt Atwood here.
Thank you very much for attending our meetings. You follow the news and you know that we are investigating at least two options to deal with the Housatonic water. And I think we'd just like to hear a little bit from you of what it would take actually to put the two companies together.
Well, first of all, we have a professional relationship with Housatonic Water Company. We back each other up as far as the state is concerned. If we have a problem with our water, then we will use the Housatonic water. If they have a problem, they will use our water. The problem is we have no direct connection between the two of them. We've been looking at a direct connection. We're about 900 feet apart. And one of the reasons we're looking to do things, we have the same water. They have surface water. We have what is known as surface water too. We have a gallery system, which actually has water that drains out of their pond that goes by our gallery system. So as far as the water goes, we both have the same water, same quality. As far as a committee to help you guys you people take over the water, Housatonic Water Company, or if you wanted to set up a separate company, you wanted to deal with the merger, it's strictly up to you folks. Us as a board, we have no interest in running the Housatonic Water Company. First of all, we don't know it. Number one, we're very familiar with our system. We're only 1,600 people. Granted, they're 850, and putting this together is still not going to put us in a really good position to do it. I'm assuming that they have a lot of work that has to be done in their pipes. Our district, we put money into our pipes regularly. We have a contractual reg. Right now, we're going to be adding some pipe and we ordered the pipe a week ago, Pete. Yeah, and it's going to take 42 weeks for it to get here. And and every time we do anything, we pay prevailing wage. He's luckier and he's an independent business. He doesn't need to go through prevailing wage. So for us, the cost of just buying the pipe has gone from around 300,000 to $500,000 to buy just the same pipe and wait 42 weeks for it. We don't have the expertise to do what is taken to do with the Housatonic water system because we don't have the engineers to look at it and to examine it. Open for questions.
Yes. Board members, question, or members of the public?
Yeah, I guess,
my first thing I would say is, I always look at, the fire district with, envy and jealousy, because you state that it's the same water, but, I'm pretty sure the water that comes out of everybody's pipes in Great Barrington is, it's a different color than what comes out of my pipes, you know? So, I guess I just watched a meeting last week and they were very concerned about taking that same water and making it clear before it went into the system. So I guess these aren't really questions, it's more statements. I'm just wondering how all that works, how if it's the same water, how is this manganese making my life miserable and who's the tonic, but it doesn't seem to be affecting anybody in Great Barrington. And then I guess I'm just, the statement of no interest in that is upsetting, because I was hoping that we could find some interest in you guys, because, I mean, you just told me you guys ordered $500,000 worth of pipe. I mean, that's awesome, and I'm extremely jealous of that. I got a pipe in front of my house that broken 4 times in 2 years, and yeah, I guess it's just a little upsetting. But
His pipe or your pipe?
his pipe, yeah, the pipe that's in the road. So, so I guess it gets me a little upset. Yeah, I'm a little older of a guy, and I went for a 5K run yesterday, first time in a while, sore as can be. Wanted to take a bath, and you know, November 18th, 19th, whatever yesterday was, I started drawing the bathtub, which it's been a while, and at a certain point, my new hot water heater must have been drawn low, and then just brown water started pouring in like crazy, you know. And so I watched the meeting, yeah, like I said, this past week, and they talked about, you know, the high season and low season, and I don't know, it's the middle of November, I can't take a bath. I guess at this point, I'm just letting everybody know my frustrations, but if there is a way to, I guess, I don't know if it's a management issue or not, but I would feel a lot better at the end of the day if Great Barrington Fire District was in charge of my water situation as well, because I can see a significant difference in between the two systems are ran, so.
Well, our system's been run for 154, since like 1854. So I mean, there's been a lot of changes. There's Mort Kavanaugh did a hell of a program. He's ran the system for almost 50 years. And he did a really good job of keeping the system up. We're just hoping to do as good a job as he did.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys just get a grant from the state for 100,000?
100,000.
What we got was, it's to do some remediation for the residents of Housatonic, but we're waiting for official word of when that money will be delivered before we make any decisions. It's not for the Housatonic water, it's for the citizens of Housatonic.
Because I was gonna say, a lot of times, I know he's got old pipes, but part of the problem is the pipe that comes from the main to the house, and that's the owner's problem.
Right.
And that's old and galvanized, and a lot of junk comes out of that. But if you could do a study, first of all, you know, I don't know if you remember the taking of the dump. Well, does anybody know what they want or what it's appraised at, really?
Yeah, we're working, we have hired an appraisal firm, and we are working in executive session. We're not gonna discuss negotiations in public. We're not asking tonight, Buddy was very generous to tell us you're not interested, but I for one won't take no for an answer right yet, it's too early. There may be, you know, clearly, unlike Housatonic Water, you people being a quasi municipal agency are able to get grants. And that's a big difference between operating a private water company. And you also.
It's true, and in his defense, he has to borrow the money, and when he borrows the money, he expected to get a return on his money. As a matter of fact, I believe it's a state law, he gets a certain guaranteed return on his money. You know, so, you know.
And to be honest, I'm not here to criticize tonight anyone. We're just trying to do some research and try to figure out where we want to go on this. And Eric's point, the first point is about the grants, but my second point, like Eric's was, guys, we have clean water when I turn on my water. And that's kind of a criteria we would like to have. The citizens of Housatonic deserve that. And so we're trying to figure out a way to make that happen, slow as it may be, because it's not an easy process.
Very slow. It's taken us years to get where we were. Well, we just replaced the pipe on South Main Street that was put in 1895.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so my hat's off to you for such a well-run water company, fire district. I mean, obviously you're doing the right things and we absolutely appreciate the work that you've done.
Thank you. I
So,
want to say it's because of the employees we have.
yes,
They're the ones that do the work, our foremen and the guys that work for them and our clerk, they're responsible for wages wrong.
absolutely, so
Yeah,
everyone.
We
so-
sit there and kind of. That's it.
You get to come to
We already
meetings
knew
like
that.
this.
We just wanted to point that out.
What I wanted to raise was, you mentioned that there's 900 feet of space, I guess, between the Housatonic Water Works infrastructure and the fire district's infrastructure. And there has been some questions saying, all we have to do is connect the two. And, the good water will mix with the bad water and we'll be fine. So I just want to have you dispel some of those rumors or, clarify if that is possible, number one, and what that would actually look like and what would happen to the water.
I doubt it would be, we do intend to connect only because, both of the systems need a backup. And so we've already had a conversation with the Housatonic Water Company and we are going to connect. It's a matter of, for us, it's the 900 feet, but we have to go back into our district a little bit. Maybe 1,000 feet to connect the two, but before we connect them, we're most likely going to make another step in our system because we use a method of treatment. We're going to change the method of the way we treat the water. Tentatively now, we're waiting for an engineering report. We're mostly going to go. We use chemicals right now. We're mostly going to go to UV. So if we go to UV, and we're going to also be forced to treat the water coming from the Housatonic Water Company. That's why I mentioned to Chris, we have to purchase a piece of property up there about 100 by 50 to be able to put plans. But that's on us to do this. It's not on between the two systems. The two systems, we're just going to split the cost of the water.
So that's interesting. So what does that look like for the Housatonic Water Works customers when that connection is made? Will they have any relief? Is that going to affect the water in the fire district?
The water's the same.
Yeah, but there's questions saying, okay, well, the good water will, mix with the bad water. And so basically will the pressure be different? Will the Housatonic Water Works customers have more pressure?
We would not be, we'd have to have pressure reducing. We could not connect directly. There's going to be a valve between us to begin with.
Okay,
If we're running a lot more pressure in our system than they have in theirs. They most likely, if we connect, we'd have to lower our pressure system before we could tie into the Housatonic water system. Because we had a problem in our system when the two tanks come online. So we had an exorbitant amount of pressure in certain areas of town. We had to install some pressure reducing valves because we had water coming out of the ground every place.
so this won't relieve any of the concerns with the fire hydrants in Housatonic when this connection is made. This will
be fed through the same piping.
Okay, so that's not gonna, so,
Same water quality,
yeah, okay.
the same fire protection.
So this is not like the great Band-Aid for the Housatonic Water Works customers, okay. So I,
This is simply a backup.
Yeah.
To meet
Yeah.
state requirements.
We're both mandated to have backup water systems.
and the funding for this, is that something that there'll be a rate increase coming to the customers of the fire district? Is this being, just
Well-
in general, because obviously
Well, actually, every time we do anything, our number one concern is not to raise our taxes.
Mhm.
And matter of fact, the reason why we taken so long to make this last connection we're doing now to fix the system that we did on Main Street is because of finances. And, we carry a certain debt load and we try to make that debt load stay the same. We try to keep our tax rate around $1 and then, we run the system by trying to make sure the tax rate takes care of the capital cost and that the what we charge for water takes care of our operational costs. Well, it's kind of a rough melding of the two. But we do that to try to keep us around, dollar tax rate.
Mhm. So hypothetically, if you were in a situation that you had the concerns of customers, as the Housatonic Waterworks customers have, what would you think is the magic bullet? I mean, obviously, it's going to take years and years and years to address this problem. And we're talking about, green sand filtration, we're talking about, lack of infrastructure investment. Is there anything that Housatonic Waterworks customers can come out of this meeting saying, okay, well, there's hope?
No, I
Okay.
can't think of a thing,
We appreciate your honesty.
Quick, anyway.
Yeah.
Everything's money. And you're right, when it comes to borrowing money, I mean, he's forced to go through a bank and because he's a business and both you and us were eligible for grants. And the federal grant, a 2% grant for 40 years is such a deal. We did one when we did part of Main Street here and we borrowed like $500,000. It's going to take us 40 years to pay it back at 2%. If everybody takes a look at what did you pay for your first house and what was your mortgage? My mortgage was $71 53 years ago. And what that looks like now.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that he can access a revolving loan fund through the state. He just
I don't know.
chooses not to do that. So he does.
No,
have-
I have no idea.
Yeah, so I think he has access to state money.
Other questions? Ed, do you have anything?
Yeah, just one. A couple of times you've said it's the same water. And Eric did not phrase it as a question. I will. Why isn't our water brown here?
Get into galleries, it's actually hundreds of tons of sand.
Well, we filter ours, same as he filters his. I would just say it might be the crew that we have working for us as much as anything.
Investment in pipe.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone have any questions? Anyone else? Yeah. Yeah.
My name's Michelle Louvier, 70 Division Street. I'm a Housatonic water customer. And this has been going on for years, this question of the water. And some of you sitting around the table, you weren't even here when this was coming up previously. I had a meeting with the Great Barrington Fire District, I think it was a year or maybe even a couple of years ago about this. But this has been going on for years and years. Steve, you probably know, and kick the can down the road, and now we really have a problem. So we have groundwater. All right, what people aren't addressing is, I often wonder, what if something happens and there's a health issue with regard to this water? There's evidence there's a health problem. We're hearing the groundwater is perfectly fine to drink. But would you give it to your children or your grandchildren? I don't think you would. I don't think you would. But I'm curious what would happen in the town of Great Barrington if all of a sudden there was an outbreak of something up in Housatonic that could be led back to this issue. Would we be sitting around here? Well, no, we can't do it. It's 900 feet. We can't do it. We get grants. He doesn't get grants. I'm just curious about that. What often bothers me is Berkshire Meadows is right on North Plain Road. They're Housatonic water. And their clients are the most vulnerable of our population. And I do know, somebody talked to me and said that one night work was going on, they were using bottled water because they couldn't use the Housatonic water. I don't know about you, but if my child was staying at Berkshire Meadows, knowing this was going on, I'd be concerned. What about the businesses in Housatonic? We're talking about Housatonic improvement. What about the businesses, extra specialties?
So right now, we're asking questions of the fire.
I know, but what I'm hearing, it's the same go around. I've heard for years.
Well,
I've heard it before.
we've heard it before too, but this time it's in public. It's at a
Yeah.
meeting and we're trying to do some research here. So if you have questions,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
You're
but
right about
you
everything
see
you
the
said.
frustration.
No, I get it.
Can you imagine buying a car, parking it in your parking lot, making payments on it, so you can't drive it?
I understand.
Can you imagine that? I also know there was talk by the finance committee about some sort of assistance to people in Housatonic. But I'm looking at the criteria to get that assistance. My husband and I wouldn't qualify for that. So we're out of luck.
So give us a few weeks because the state is coming forward with $100,000. Select board will make a decision on what sort of assistance is going to be. And I don't know that there's gonna be any economic criteria, so.
And secondly, friends of ours just dug a well up on North Plain Road. Something my husband and I are contemplating as well, because the aquifer goes right through our yard, goes down to the Williams River. That's no secret. But now I'm concerned about, after the fire at Fort Mills, what other contaminations are going on in my neighborhood. Maybe the businesses up on Van Duzenville Road are contaminating. So essentially, there's a group of consumers up in Housatonic whose hands are tied. Maybe they can't dig a well. They can't use Great Barrington Fire District. By the way, I was also a customer of Great Barrington Fire District for years and years. Never had an issue with flushing or anything like that. So I'm upset. I'm just agreeing with Eric to not to be able to take a shower or bath. And I'm hearing, oh, we're not gonna do it. But like I said, God forbid there's an outbreak or something. And then these people around this table will have to do something, 900 feet or not.
Matthew O'Brien, do you have a question for the Great Barrington Fire District or for the select board?
Yes, thank
Name
you.
and address.
33 Van Duzenville is where my land is located. I just wanted to bring up, I talked to the health department and a few of the select people, and I brought it up at other meetings that a possible positive solution, now this is long-term, but you know, the pipes, I have dealt with that. I have gone up against the Wilkinsons and the Housatonic Water Company in court. And I won the case, you know, but I had to take it all the way to the end. You know, I had to go further and appeal, you know, to try to get something done. But the positive part I just wanted to bring up was that no one seems to have knows anything about primary water, which is manufactured in the earth. Very few people know it, but I've seen the wells myself. I've spoken to the University of Miami, where they test for tritium to test primary water to see if it actually is primary water, which has no pollutants, has no minerals, it's the most healthy water you can get. And it doesn't even cost that much to drill down to 800 feet where you can find it, especially when you have hilly areas where most likely we already have springs. You know, this is something that's all over the earth. They make us seem like we have very little water. We only have basin water. We either drill a well, you know, shortly into that water that sits down there. But below there are primary wells where you'll have more water than you could ever imagine that's pristine. I know people in Great Barrington are complaining to me about the water now with the, you know, the chemicals that have to be added to it. And I keep bringing it up, and I know that it's very rare that people know about it, but I know in Israel, they have one at the Dead Sea. They have one in Saudi Arabia in the desert. You can drill this anywhere. And it would be great. I gave the site before. It's called primarywaterinstitute.org. And you can read all you need to do, but it would really be a great health add to this town. And even as a corporation that Great Barrington is, they could even get into the business of it for other communities that are having water problems as well. And as we know, they all are. So, you know.
Thank you very much. We will look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, what we're really trying to do is discuss the fire district, the relationship with the town. And if you have questions of the fire district, that's really what we are at tonight. And
To answer that gentleman's
Yeah.
question, we've drilled 4 or 5 wells. We have one down over 960 feet. We didn't find any primary water.
But you also have a bunch of wells right in Housatonic that produce all kinds of water, but you're not allowed to use them.
correct. And go ahead.
Hi, yeah, Ann O'Dwyer, 26 Kirk Street in Housatonic. I guess I'm still quite confused as to what needs to be done to even explore this option of merging or having the Great Barrington Fire District take over the Housatonic water. I thought I heard you say that it's really not, and correct me if I'm wrong, this isn't something that the fire district decides, it's something that the town decides. Is that an accurate statement or did I misunderstand?
Inaccurate statement.
So what's,
The fire district would have to make the decision, not the town. The fire district, just to be clear for anyone who's listening, fire district is a completely separate entity from the town. It gets confused with the Great Barrington Fire Department, same initials, and people, because they do collect money for us, and I know, Ann, you know this, and because we collect money for them, excuse me, people
Right.
think that we have some sort of a co-ownership. They are a completely separate agency. And so what would have to happen is first and foremost is the fire district would have to show some interest. We're not there yet asking them. We're doing our due diligence right now.
and so at this point right now, I guess I hear the Great Barrington Fire District saying, at this point, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of interest, or you'd need more information before there's interest.
They've been clear that, Buddy was clear tonight, there's not a lot of interest, but.
Okay,
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
well, that's what we need to know. I guess, could I just, and the reason there's not a lot of interest is it just seems like would be too much. I guess I'm just curious why no interest.
I'll answer that briefly.
That would be any cheaper.
There's no real advantage.
More employees.
There's no advantage to fire district. We'd have to double our employees. To be in the fire district, we already have a debt load that we're carrying. We'd be carrying a new debt load. We would be in the same position as the water company now. We'd be just operating a water company. And we'd be getting the same grief that they're getting. And we wouldn't be able to fix the problem for most likely 5, 6, 7 years. Or maybe longer, because we haven't got the ability to borrow as much money as the town.
Ann, does that answer your question?
I think so. So I guess I was under the misimpression that the Great Barrington Fire District could borrow or get state or federal funds to help with capital improvements. That's not correct?
Oh, no, we borrow money, so if we get grants from the.
It's how much of a debt load that they would want to take on.
Right, okay.
One time, the fire district debt was like 4 or 5, I think it was $5.60 in the taxes. And that, according to Chief Kavanaugh, when we had that discussion about it, it was not pleasant.
It was not what? I'm sorry, I missed that. It was not what?
Did not like to carry that debt load, and the customers in the fire district did not like paying that amount of tax.
Okay. But if we don't find a private company to come and take it over, then there's no other option.
Now, there are always other options. That's why we're doing some exploration right now.
Okay, so we're looking into other options as well.
We will have to.
Okay, all right. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, we have a number of people who want to speak. We have a long meeting, so let's move through this. Louise Goldsmith. You are, just unmute yourself and say your name and address.
Or just
Say
say
your name and address.
I did it.
Hi, hello?
Just state your name and
Hi,
address.
Paul. Yeah, Paul Carrara, 1026 Main Street, Housatonic. Okay, my question is, the gentleman from the fire district said it was, if I'm correct, a similar water. Where do they draw their water from? Is it Long Pond?
We get our water from Green River.
Okay, so it's not the same water supply as the Housatonic Waterworks.
Matter of fact, the water comes out of, Long Pond and eventually comes through the Green River. It is the same.
So
water.
it is the same water. I don't know. I'm not just asking a question. Is it the
Yeah,
same
that's
water
correct. What
then?
he's saying, it's ultimately is the same water.
Okay, so you just have better filtration. So I guess the question is, so you're saying it's more of the economy and monetizing why you wouldn't be interested in helping Housatonic, who are actually citizens of Great Barrington, get better water quality. It's just a matter of
This is a
economics.
private- This isn't about who's willing to help. The private company, this is.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
Oh, I'm getting a lot of feedback from you. You have two devices open?
Maybe, I don't know for sure. I apologize.
Okay, that's okay. We're gonna move ahead because I can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, Liz Rockefeller.
Liz Rockefeller, 284 Park Street, Great Barrington. Just a couple of comments. I believe the statement was made that possibly some of this brown water could be due to the homeowner's pipes that lead from the road into the home and the actual pipes in the home. I have had all that checked out and my pipes are up to standards, what they're supposed to be, and I still suffer from this brown water. It's not just the fault of the homeowner and their pipes. And number two, we have been encouraged throughout this long process and I mean years, to drink this dirty water. It is safe to drink. It's safe to bathe our children in. And on several occasions have offered both Mercers to drink samples of the water I took out of my faucets, and every time they refused. So what does that tell you? Thank you.
If you're gonna want to speak, you'll have to come up to the podium and get in line. Yeah, please. It's a little confusing because we have.
I had to wait until then.
No, I'll take you after another couple of people online, and just so I know you want to speak. So just, thank you. Matthew O'Brien.
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to that you
Name and address, please.
couldn't find any primary water at 900 feet. The mill
Name and
across
address,
from
please.
me. Can you hear me?
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, Matthew Eugene, family of O'Brien, 33 Van Duzenville Road, it's designated. I just wanted to get back to drilling down to 900 feet. The mill across from me, they have a primary well because they used to make museum paper, and you cannot have impurities in museum paper because it will deteriorate and fall apart. So that comes, you have to know where to look, and you also have to frack it with dry ice when you get down there to split, the rock. It's a process. I know people don't know about it. It's something that's been not talked about for years. I've seen them myself in California, in different places. And like I said, talk to the University, Miami that does the testing on it.
We have it on the list. And that's
Okay,
not what
the other
subject is.
question I
We have it
had,
on the list.
the only question I had is a simple one. So the supplier of water is a private corporation that delivers water to Great Barrington. It's a corporation that owns Housatonic Water, and Great Barrington itself is a corporation traded on Dun and Bradstreet. So we're talking about money here, aren't we? I think I just wanted to bring that up. Is that not true?
I really am not following that line of thinking.
So is the company that supplies water to Great Barrington, are they a corporation, a private corporation?
No,
We're a
No.
municipality.
they're a municipality.
So Housatonic Water, are they a corporation? Are they a municipality?
Not a municipality. But
Not a
that's
municipality.
what we're here- They're not a municipality.
Okay, so I just back up that other woman that said it's about money. And, you know, the health really isn't as, you know, the priority here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. One more and then I'll have you. Annie, just state your name and address, please. You're unmuted.
Hello?
Yeah, we can barely hear you. Can you speak
Hello,
louder?
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Name and
Hello?
address, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, name and address, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Ani Crowfoot, 210 Cottage Street, Housatonic.
Yes.
I have 3 questions. The Housatonic Waterworks has repeatedly said that excessive manganese is not a big health risk. And I just want to really make it public that lifetime exposure to manganese is indeed a health risk. That it can
We're
lead
not
to
here to argue with that. We don't disagree with you. That
yes,
isn't the-
okay, but I just want that to be, there's an urgency because many people have lived here for their whole lives. So I want that to be a part of what my next point is, that there is a moral imperative here that is not being addressed. You know, I understand that the fire district has financial concerns that are equal to the Housatonic Waterworks concerns, but we see that there's a long trail of immoral behavior that has led us to this point. So sort of throwing up your hands and saying, well, it's too expensive and that's not where we're at the moment. And the town and the fire district needs to really step up and take accountability for what's the right thing to do. So I'd like to hear from the fire district about that, what he thinks about that. And the final thing is, he mentioned that the main difference between the Housatonic Waterworks and the fire district in terms of their water is the crew. And I really would like to understand exactly what the crew is doing differently in Great Barrington than in Housatonic. Thank you.
Thank you, Buddy. Do you want to respond to any of that?
Not necessarily.
Okay, that's your choice. Go ahead, just state your name and address, ma'am.
Janice Gilroy, at 185 Christian Hill Road, Great Barrington.
Thank you.
So I'm actually one of the outliers, not in Housatonic Village. But I believe from what Jim Mercer has told me, the 4th house from the source, basically. So Long Pond under division crosses over one property behind 2 others and is the southern property, the southern line of our property. We have a new house, relatively, new piping relatively. What we do have is over 125-year-old piping in the back. And our water, it's not the sludge that some people have had, but it is not good. And it's gotten to the point, it's like, well, how many weeks can we go without taking a shower? You know, can I use the little kitchen sink to brush my teeth? I mean, it's really gotten that bad, and we're not even as bad as some people. So I guess my question is, and I guess I was struck by I think there's a common good issue that we really need to be looking at as a community, this moral imperative that was just spoken about, that is not fair to the residents of Housatonic and the Housatonic Waterworks Company to be dealing with this situation while the rest of Great Barrington has nice clean water when they turn on the faucet. But I'm curious about the 900 feet or the 1,000 feet or 1,100 feet. Can you say more about where that is? Because I'm kind of interested because I am at the source basically. And I'd like to know, where would that connection take place and how challenging is it for that to happen? Is my first question. The next is, I was also struck by the comments about your crew, and it sounds like they're doing a great job. And I'm wondering whether there are better practices in place that make the water situation more successful in Great Barrington. For example, this latest flushing that Housatonic Water Works did, I believe the GEP was helping them plan that, and I don't recall a more detailed schedule. And of course, it was still bad water and problems, but I'm just wondering, do you guys have your practices more settled so that you understand the, what is it, unidirectional flushing versus conventional flushing? Do you have better sense of how much water you can keep in your holding tank before it starts getting the dechlorination byproduct stuff going on? And I'm just wondering, it seems like you guys are doing with a limited staff something that's working besides just replacing pipes every now and then. So I guess I'd be curious about how you've worked that out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All our crew members, all have licenses for water. They all have, basically, Peter has the top license, the other two guys have licenses. We follow best practices as recommended by the state. Oh, the 900 feet, it's in process. And most likely take a year or two to get done because we have to order the pipe. We have to have the engineers design it. And, we've been working on it for about a year now. So hopefully in about a year and a half, we'd have it done.
Do you go like down Division Street?
Oh, no, we'll be on Christian Hill Road.
Up Christian Hill?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a pipe that runs where, to Forest Row.
Okay.
To the nursing home, we have to start a little bit before the nursing home, have the same size pipe to get up to where we would tie into the Housatonic Water Company.
So would you then, because I've noticed your fire hydrants are red, very nicely painted, by the way. And Housatonic Water Works seem to be blue and white. And there seems to be like about 2/10
Yeah, that's,
mile between the,
yeah, there's no pipe in between them, no.
okay, is that where you're trying to bring them together?
Yeah, we would most likely, the community trust is part of the fire district. We most likely go to that line in Mercer, Housatonic Water Company come the other way. But we're gonna do it. We just have to get it organized. What it is. And we have to find the person who owns the community land trust so I can get access to a piece of property. Yeah, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna take two more online, and Eric has a question, then we're going to move on. So Eileen, go right ahead. Just unmute yourself, Eileen.
Yeah, no, I have no idea why my hand was up. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We like hearing your voice anyways.
Okay.
Charlie Williamson.
Charlie Williamson, 48 Blue Hill Road, Great Barrington. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I got two questions for Buddy Atwood to clarify some things that I've heard. Number one, Buddy, Long Pond gets all its water, Mercer's, Housatonic Water gets all their water from Long Pond, correct?
Yes,
And Great Barrington Water Districts, you get your water out of Green River from deep wells, don't you?
no, we don't. We're classified
you
as a
don't?
surface well. But we
Yours
have
is-
a gallery system that sits alongside of Green River about 100 yards off the river, and it fills our gallery system, and we use that to take care to pump the water down into our tanks.
So you're actually getting water from Long Pond also?
All it comes out of Green River. Long Pond goes in Green River, Alfred Brook, Green River out of New York State. They all go by there, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Indirectly,
lead to, though. Is Green River it got a high percentage of water coming from New York State, so you're getting a percentage of Long Pond water. What I'm leading,
From every place,
pardon?
yes.
Okay, what I'm leading to is there's definitely something different between your water and Housatonic. And I don't know if you know this answer that I'm going to question you on is, do you know what the difference is on the manganese between your water and Long Pond? Because definitely the Housatonic water is just mud and Great Barrington water is clean. And nobody would drink the Housatonic water if they had it. So your manganese has to be quite different than Long Pond's manganese because you don't have the problem. Or what are you doing to get rid of your manganese? That's my question.
Go ahead.
It's lower. I mean, it is detectable after we add chlorine. Before adding chlorine, it's non-detectable.
So then that tells you, that tells you your water is completely different than Long Pond because Long Pond has manganese, measurable manganese, and you're not getting any manganese. So your water is different. There's no question about it. It's coming from Green River. Green River is not 100% Long Pond water. I would say it's probably less than 10%. You're getting most of it out of New York State. You're getting it out of Green River, out past the airport.
Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Eric, last question.
Just a couple questions with the fire district. The monthly usage, do you guys have a minimum and what is it that you bill for?
Actually, they bill by the gallon, we bill 100 square feet, 100.
Cubic.
100
Cubic
cubic
feet,
feet.
yeah.
And
So-
we bill
It's only a computer program that tells you the difference.
Yep, and so I guess what is the minimum, like, so
3,740 gallons.
one more time.
That's quarterly, 3,740 gallons quarterly.
We bill
And if
for-
somebody was just using under the minimum, what would their monthly charge be?
$46.57.
And then you quarterly.
Yeah.
$46
And 57 cents.
57 cents. They pay that amount quarterly.
Plus.
Plus tax. Don't forget,
The
we
dollar tax. And then, so that's that, so then, okay, that basically gives me the answers I was looking for, so within those payments. And you guys are able to upkeep your system and the status you do.
Will you have a follow-up?
Because it's tax.
Yes, I understand, yeah, dollar tax.
Just real quick, you mentioned you have 1,600 customers, is that correct? Roughly, okay, and Housatonic Waterworks is 850. So you have a crew of 4 plus 4 board members?
We have 4.
Okay, do you have any idea how,
Three.
but out in the field, how many?
Three.
3 in the crew. And how many do Housatonic Waterworks have, do we know? 2? Okay,
Yep.
so, so my question is, would it be helpful if they, if you had a consulting, you charge them a fee to help with their crews or provide consulting work or extra, manpower? Is there anything that you could offer as a supportive service to Housatonic Waterworks that might benefit or
Any
speed
one
things
of the
up?
water companies, if they have a leak or something like that, Peter will go over and help them find it. We try to work with everybody in the community here, but we need our 3 guys.
Yeah.
They're working. Lately, they've been working
60 hours a week.
straight out.
Okay.
It depends on what the project is at the time. There may be a little downtime once in a while, but most of the time they're productive. We're rebuilding the pump station. We have to test the system. If somebody has a problem, leak, we're putting pipe in. These guys are busy.
Mhm. So is it kind of a difference in manpower from Housatonic Waterworks having people out in the field versus, you don't know? Okay.
I don't know their system.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will keep in touch.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're willing to help you guys. So, There's a one.
No, I understand. I understand.
Thank
But we
you.
need to hear. Thank you very much.
And can I just say one thing?
Of course.
Sorry, looking at this and we're just as frustrated as everybody that has spoken tonight and people who haven't spoken. It's tough to say, let's go hook this up and the problems will stop. It's not an overnight thing. There's engineering, just like we've been
explained before, but he explained that we're trying to do this connection for a couple of years now, but we need to find a spot. We need to engineer it. We need to figure out if we can get some pipe, because you can't get it now. And all of that takes time and finances, of course, and we're looking out for our tax base. But that's kind of, it's not a money type thing. It's in the end, yes, we have to figure out how we're gonna finance this, but it's not gonna happen to say, okay, let's go hook up. You're not gonna turn on a garden hose and hook it up. There's a whole lot of stuff that needs to go on, and it's a start, but it's gonna take a while to get there.
No, I
And I
appreciate
think
that.
that's what everything.
Thanks, Will. Let me just ask, is there any media wants to ask a question? Seeing none, we'll adjourn this part of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're on to the select board regular meeting. So do I have a motion to convene as sewer commissioners?
I make a motion to convene as sewer commissioners.
Do you have a second? I have a second, please. I have plenty of seconds. When you take minutes, pick anyone you would like. All in favor? Oh, no, we gotta do this roll call. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. Is Joe?
I'm Joe Paul.
Hope I picked the right Joe. Joe, can you hear us? I have 50 chance that everyone Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So you're talking about the abatement that's in front of you, correct?
That's correct.
So night soils, as most of you probably know, they're the soils that are brought by septic haulers to the sewer treatment plant. And there was a company, Sullivan Sanitation, that was bringing it to our facility and had a bill, their bill typically monthly. And he became sick with COVID and passed away. And the business has since been closed and the bill is still outstanding. So we're faced with either trying to take legal action to try to find the money or to try to go forward with an abatement. So that's kind of where we sit right now, is we're requesting the commission, the sewer commission to honor an abatement, for this individual. A little bit of history. We do know we had trucks and stuff and some assets that were taken back because there was open loans. So there was pretty good evidence that there wasn't any monetary assets left to attach.
Thank you, Joe. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the request from the DPW and wastewater superintendents, an abatement for Sullivan Sanitation, customer 108,992, in the amount of $22,568 in order to close the account.
Second.
I have a second from that. Any discussion?
So the abatement, we're looking to leave this guy or the family of this guy, I guess, the thing here. All assets we feel have been repoed. Just basically doing this to get it off the books.
That's correct. Roll call vote. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Steve.
Do I have a motion to adjourn as sewer commissioners?
I make a motion to adjourn as sewer commissioners.
Second.
Roll call. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And I. So we are back in as select board. Do you have a motion to approve the minutes of October 17th, October 24th, and November 7th?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of October 17th, 24th, and November 7th.
Second.
And I have a second from Ed, motion from Lee. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous. Ed, I'll have you know your chair is here and I keep looking at it when I ask you to vote, so it's a little disturbing, but I'll get over that. Select board's announcements or statements. Garfield.
Yeah, it's just that it's the holiday season. And I think we should just try to be nice to each other. I don't mean just the setting, but anyone, if you have friends, whom you haven't seen or talked to, please try to reach out to them. We should do this all year round, but at least we should be able to be civil to each other during this time of the year.
Thank you, Garfield. There.
Yes, just want to make a small announcement. On Thanksgiving, we're gonna do a fun run in Housatonic called the Hoosie Hustle. It's gonna be the first ever one, rail trail run, walk, open event to all Thanksgiving morning. On Thanksgiving morning in Housatonic, the first ever Hoosie Hustle Rail Trail Fun Run takes place at 9:30, starting at the end of the St. Bridget's Cemetery on Van Duzenville Road. Registration starts at 8:30. It's a walk, very informal, untimed run. Few of us are just trying to put it together. It's gonna be either 2 miles or 6. You get to choose which length you want to do. There are 2 turnaround spots for shorter and longer runs. The police officer is going to be posted at the Main Street crossing for safety. There is no entry fee, but participants are encouraged to make a donation to the Driscoll family of Housatonic, who recently suffered the loss of Jim Driscoll after a long battle with cancer. Participants are asked to bring cash or a check for this donation. The event will officially wind up by 11 o'clock. So hope everybody can be there and hope everybody has a safe and healthy Thanksgiving.
Okay. Ed?
Nothing.
Lee?
One announcement that the housing subcommittee's next meeting is Tuesday, December 6th, 5 p.m. I welcome everyone and we hope to see you then.
Thank you. I have nothing. Mark, town manager's report.
Hi, everybody, sitting in for Mark tonight, just to remind everybody that the winter overnight parking ban is in effect. Goes into effect every November 15th through March 31st, between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. So we ask that people do not park on the street during those times so that plows can get through if there's a snow event. Violators will be ticketed. Vehicles that block plows will be towed. There is overnight parking both in downtown Great Barrington, the Railroad Street lot, Castle Street lot, and Mason Library, and in Housatonic. Overnight parking is available at Housatonic School. So just remind people of that. And I will also mention, while I have the mic, town buildings obviously are closed on Thursday, Thanksgiving, but also on Friday. Day after Thanksgiving, that includes town hall and the libraries as well.
Thank you very much. Next is public hearings. First one was a special permit application for the Southern Berkshire Chamber of Commerce. So I will read this and we'll take a vote. I'm writing to requesting a 2-month continuance regarding our permit for the new Southern Berkshire Chamber Business Visitor Center. The volunteer committee of 5 architects have come up with some amazing ideas. Now we are trying to marry their ideas with something that Southern Berkshire Chamber can afford. We would request to be put on the January 23rd, 2023 agenda. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the extension of time of 2 months for the Southern Berkshire Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Garfield?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous. Next is Steam Noodle Cafe, manager for a new common victualler restaurant, all alcoholic liquor license at 286 Main Street, Great Barrington. Motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. Do I have someone to give an explanation? Come on up, give your name and address and just tell us what you're doing.
All right.
You don't have to go long. That's fine.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Singer, chef and owner of Steam Noodle Cafe, right on Main Street. And it took me for a long time to decided to get this license. It's been asking from the customer every day, so hopefully to make them more happy and yes.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone speak in favor or opposition? Do you have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call vote, Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And I. Discussion. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to grant an all alcoholic liquor license to Steam Noodle Cafe for a new common victualler restaurant on 286 Main Street, Great Barrington.
Second.
And I have a second. Discussion.
I assume all the tips, all that certification will be in order, right?
Yeah.
The town sends that
Yeah,
out.
Calvin.
Yeah.
Sounds
Good.
Anyone else? Roll call vote, Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And I. It's unanimous. Congratulations and good luck. So we're gonna take 12A. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do 12A next, in new business. Recommendation to the planning board on the special permit application for conversion of the former nursing home at 148 Maple Avenue, Great Barrington, to a multifamily use submitted by 148 Maple Avenue LLC, Chestnut Hill, Mass. Care of Nicholas Arianti of Hellman, Sherman and Arianti LLP in accordance with section 8.10 and 10.4 of the zoning bylaw. Helen.
Hey, Steve, thank you very much. Thank you very much to the board for listening to this application for a special permit and considering a recommendation to the planning board. So again, my name is Nick Arianti and I am an attorney representing the applicant 148 Maple Ave LLC. I have a representative of the applicant here tonight, Charles Goldman. He is the principal entity acting on behalf of the owner. Again, 148 Maple Ave LLC on behalf of this special permit application, and he and his group will be in charge, hopefully, of the conversion of this former nursing home at 148 Maple Ave to a multifamily use. The application tonight, and I'll have Charles introduce himself, I think, if he wants, after I give a summary of the summary and overview of the permit application. But I'll hit the high points for the select board to see if you have any comments, questions that we can help you out on. So again, we are our 140 Maple Ave, the applicant here is applying for a special permit as well as for site plan review as required by this provision of the zoning bylaw, which is section 8.10. 8.10 is a very, I would say, special and specific portion of your zoning bylaw, which allows for the conversion to multifamily use of existing nursing home. Okay, so long as they're in residential areas. 148 Maple Ave happens to be in the R2 residential 2-acre zoning district, right down Maple Avenue, right down off of Route 23, not too far from here. And a very small portion, actually, the eastern kind of corner that is in the R1A district, but by and large, the property is in the R2. If you're not familiar with the old nursing home building, it was rehab and nursing facility for quite a long time. The building was built in 1969. It's a little over 21,000 square feet existing, basement, first and second floors. And the applicant is proposing to adaptively reuse the existing building on the site without expanding the footprint of the building, without going up, out, or anywhere really expanding that footprint at all. So they're going to maintain the existing building. The genesis of the project is a refurbishment of that existing structure and a adaptation of the interior as well as the exterior to fit the 30-unit proposed multifamily residential condominium. So it's a 30-unit development in total. The intent is to have a breakdown of unit comprising of 12 one-bedroom units, 16 two-bedroom units and 5 3-bedroom units. While the exterior of the building will be maintained, the structure as well as the footprint, there will be an interior modification, obviously, to move around those interior partitions and the ability to kind of flow through the space on the interior. Exterior will receive obviously a refurbishment as well, particularly with regard to the front facade. It'll get a little bit of a facelift, specifically with regard to the front entrance point, to make it a little bit more accommodating, a better aesthetic for a residential application, as well as some retooling in order to make that building look a little bit more inviting and accommodating again a residential use. The back of the building is kind of a C shape, and the back area kind of has a shared space back there that's going to be intended for some kind of community residential use back there. It's a fairly small area if you've ever been on that property out to the back. It's not that big, but it's a good place to have a little bit of outdoor recreation area because it's fairly shielded from residences on both sides as well as the street. As far as parking goes on the property, it's going to be a reuse of the same parking layout. 47 spaces are allotted for this use. There really is no expansion of parking, no contraction of parking. 47 spaces is more than is required by the bylaw in order to accommodate parking for this use. There'll be some new lighting on the property, as well as some kind of planting and community planning areas, which are on the kind of on the northwestern side of the property. Again, tucked right into one of the corners of the parking area. There are exhibits in your packets that show not only the nuts and bolts of the proposal, but also the site plan, which has been submitted for site plan review. We'll be in front of the planning board for that process, as well as part of the special permit application process. There are architectural plans that were submitted showing not only the floor plans, existing and proposed, but as well as renderings and elevations showing all sides of the building and what is to be expected for the new converted adaptive reuse. There was a modification which I did update. The prior proposal had its, or the initial proposal had a slightly different composition of units, unit breakdown. And so the numbers I cited tonight reflect the updated, kind of a more balanced breakdown between the 1 units or the 1 bedroom and the 2 bedrooms. There were revised floor plans that also illustrated that modification. Otherwise, in substance, the application has not been changed at all. I probably won't go into the specifics unless if there are specific questions that you all have at this point. Kind of inconsistent with past practice for special permits I've done in town. You're not the special permit granting authority in this one, just a recommending board. Again, the planning board is the permit granting authority in this one, weighing all the specific finding criteria, both under section 8.10 and section 10.4 special permit criteria, as well as section 10.5 special site plan review criteria. So obviously we'll be going over in somewhat greater detail those finer points to allow them to make findings and a decision. I'm happy to address all the points that I can. If you have questions relative to any of those things.
Board members have questions?
I have a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so 21,000 square feet. I was wondering, do you have estimated building costs for that by chance?
I don't in hand. Charles, do you have information at this point that's responsive to that question that's kind of useful?
Well, how's it come up to?
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, why don't you-
If you don't, that's fine. It's not necessarily relevant to.
Table works too.
Yeah, if you want to sit at the table, that's fine.
Good evening. The building is actually closer to 29,000 square feet. And I would prefer keeping the projected cost private.
Sounds good. I guess, at the end of the day, when the project's completed, is this a rental, situation, or are these condos you're gonna be selling?
The proposal is for 30 condos.
30 condos, yeah, okay.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion for recommendation to the planning board?
I make a motion to recommend to the planning board on the special permit application for the conversion of the former nursing home at 148 Maple Avenue to a multifamily use.
That's a positive recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a thank you. We are desperate for housing and apartments. So thank you for taking the risk with your money to make this happen.
It's our pleasure. It's a project that we're very excited to undertake.
Roll call vote, Garfield. Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And aye. It's unanimous. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll send it. Okay, we have, at the height, we had 19 attendees, and at that point, we had 4 panelists, but we still have. So next is going to be the Housatonic School RFP. My goal tonight would be a vote, but it's aspirational. We will see how far we go and how much we agree on, and what questions we have that may have to come back to us. But at this point, I still have hope that maybe we can vote tonight, and if not, we'll put it on the next, not the next agenda, because we'll be missing at least one board member. It would be the agenda after that. So, Chris, do you want to kind of lead us through this?
Sure, I'd happy to. Do you want to
Yes.
wait until Lee gets
Yep.
back, or?
Yeah, okay. Told her I would sing, but no one wants that.
All right, we'll just hold on a second. Freeze break.
I've lost my audience.
Suspension. Just curious if, yeah.
Well, taking a break or just.
You
Did I
said
miss
it,
something?
friend.
No one has an extra cord, like a little charging cord.
For
Charge from, yeah. Okay. Actually, I come with my cords. Yeah, I think so. I'm just like, well, I'm trying. This guy. Right. Yeah. Here, thank you.
Somebody else leaves the room, we'll just go home.
That's it. They better be bringing popcorn back.
I hope so. Where are you going?
I'm all right.
Good. Okay, Chris.
Okay, we're all back. Ed, you ready?
Yeah, Ed never left.
Ed's been there.
I got my eye on him the whole time.
So the board, as you know, the board received 2 proposals for the purchase and reuse and renovation of the former Houstonic School for your RFP issued earlier this year. And you've heard presentations from both proposers. You have Arete, I'm sorry, and maybe next time. And the second is WDM CT Management. I did include in the packet tonight just tried to do a side-by-side basic comparison of the high points of the 2 proposals, just to set the stage for the board's discussion and your decision. But your evaluation criteria really are set forth in the RFP, pages 10, 11, and 12, and those were also in your packet for tonight. There are 5 comparative criteria that you should discuss pretty deliberately in turn to come to your decision. Including financial capacity, operational capability, site and building design, the purchase price, and financial benefits or otherwise, and that will lead you after discussion to an overall rating of both proposals. At the end of the day, you can vote to select one or decide not to accept either and move on. That's up to you. But just to set the stage, quickly comparing the 2, you have Arete 14 apartments versus WDM's 10 apartments. The WDM's is fully residential, as you know, and the Arete proposal is a mixed-use proposal with commercial space on the ground level. WDM, as I said, is fully residential. It doesn't include any commercial space. Both are looking at historic preservation. Both have marketing plans and timelines. Both have provided you with building layouts and sample floor plans for the units. And what they'll be doing inside and outside the building on the site. In terms of site work, the first is team proposes more extensive site work. They're looking to have essentially a walkout basement for that commercial space. The WDM proposal has comparatively less site costs involved. Both have the required number of parking spaces under the zoning. The WDM proposal does include a few more than the first. In terms of zoning, the Arete proposal is by right in the Houstonic Village Center zone as a mixed use. The WDM proposal is a special permit for multifamily use in this zone. Both have included timelines for completion. And I'm sure in terms of finances and timeline, that of course will all depend on where this board goes with its discussion and its deliberation, ultimately selection. You know, once you decide and negotiate a contract, that will set the timeline in motion. So, but these are good benchmarks for you to use for your discussion. The first proposal from Arete offers just a dollar for the space. WDM is also essentially a token price of $1,000. The development costs are relatively well thought out by both teams. The Arete proposal obviously is much higher, as you've seen. They have more work to do in the building and on the site, and versus the WDM proposal. As a result, Arete is seeking additional assistance from the town, which has been discussed in the presentations before. And WDM certainly will would like to take full advantage of what the town is offering in terms of you know, the remediation and CPA costs and other CPA funds and other funds that are dedicated as outlined in the RFP. So hopefully that gives you just a quick comparative snapshot. And I encourage you to go through each of the criteria now in the RFP and discuss each one.
Like a special permit, why don't you go through?
Sure.
Overview of that.
Happy to.
Yeah. And guide us through it. Just out of curiosity, more for the public, special permit granting authority for this will be.
I should know that, but I think it's.
Good, I thought it was a dumb question.
I think it's the select. board.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Looking at the criteria, does anybody have a question before I start? So there are three ways to look at each of these criteria. There's the highly advantageous rating, the advantageous rating, and the unacceptable. Those are set forth there on page 10. And beginning with the financial capacity. What the board is looking for here, as outlined in the RFP, is a team that, in your judgment, has exceptional financial capacity to undertake a project. It's proven, there's prior experience in financing these. A highly advantageous proposal will have at least 3 real estate redevelopment deals behind it of comparable size. They're able to secure the financing necessary, et cetera, to go through the project. An advantageous rating is a little bit less, they may not have as much experience. And finally, an unacceptable rating given to a proposal that fails to identify the team. Now, both of these in front of you, I think, have proven teams. So I don't think in any of these we'll be talking about unacceptable ratings. So I think your discussion is really what is highly advantageous in your minds versus advantageous. And then on balance, just like Steve said, just like a special permit, it's up to the board to weigh each one after the discussion.
So let's start with a discussion of that, of the financial capacity. Anyone have any comments that they have, or?
So when we're saying the financial capacity, like total project cost and what they're putting up and what they expect us to put up, is that where?
That's part of it. They have, the team is proven in the minds of banks and agencies or financing partners where they are asking for the funds. So that's a very strong thing it's a very important thing to have good relationships with funders of any kind.
So I guess, as far as getting into finances of it, I just was going through the numbers and, there's obviously a pretty big difference between budgets. And both leave me a little concerned. They're basically, if you break it down to square foot, they're $276 a square foot for the redevelopment of it, and which and then the WMD is basically down to 167, if I'm doing my math correct. So my first concern with both those numbers, especially in this state of construction where we're at, is how reasonable that is. And then if it does come back, it's not unheard of for construction projects to run over budget, right? Obviously. If and when that goes over budget, where's it coming from, I guess would be my concern. And we can get into that when we're negotiating. So as far as, WDM, I've driven past their spots, have been for a while, excited to see it. So they obviously have it. The ARET, saw their paperwork, saw the recommendations from other towns they worked with. They seem very straightforward about the costs and what they expect from us. I didn't feel like they're holding anything back, which I appreciate, so. I feel that, you know, I feel that I have more experience with WDM just because, I'm in Pittsfield all the time, I see their projects. But the ARET project, the excitement of it, gets me more, so. All their proposals, I feel the financing. I'm concerned about their target square foot price, but, I feel with what they brought to the table, they both pass, you know, that criteria for me, so.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in most cases, but I think both projects are quality. I don't have any concerns about the team that's put together. My real concern is that, and let me say that WDM obviously knows contractors in Berkshire County, works with contractors, and so I think that their price, and I don't know ARET, so I'm just basing, I think that they have an idea of what it costs to work in Berkshire County. And I'm sure they've taken that into account. My concern in these is that we had offered $650,000 as part of the agreement for abatement. And that's both took us up on that, as they should have. But I would be concerned with ARET of going to town meeting for $2 million for a building that it will help Housatonic, but I think they both will help Housatonic. And I just don't know what we would get out of it for $2 million.
Right.
It just seems
Steve?
like a lot. Yes, sir.
I sort of want to jump on that. You know, there is some if about financing through historic preservation funds, historic tax credits. There's also some if about going to town meeting for $2 million extra dollars. I don't know how to judge which is more iffy.
Well, they're both gonna look for tax credits.
No, I think that
I don't-
only
I think
WDM was.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought the other one.
said that they weren't gonna look, they were looking for us.
That's
for
right,
more money to
you're right about
Speed
that.
up the process.
Yes, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if that puts them both at the advantageous. Again, I can't really compare. I mean, none of us can compare the likelihood of a town meeting vote. That would just be a guess.
Well, first of all, we would have to, you, me, or whoever's on the board would have to want to bring it to town meeting and ask for $2 million.
Right.
We'd have to.
I guess that's what I'm. Oh, right. So that's a concern of mine. The town meeting. I know locally we've done really well with historic tax credit projects, but I have no idea what that means for this one.
So, yeah, I guess, you know.
How's that for a statement without a conclusion?
Very good. I think I might have another. So, you know, we've discussed in the committees I've been on and just in general in with people, just to discuss this school with such great detail. And just the general need for mixed use is been extremely like that's what I hear from most people. That's, you know, we had a farmer's market this weekend in Housatonic, and 9 out of the 10 people that talk to me were pushing for the mixed use option. And all the way through, you know, there's always been a handful of people at meetings not looking to spend any more money on this school or project. But my leaning or my feelings has been mostly that people feel that it's essential that this building has mixed use, not necessarily, you know, a lot of people always call it community space, but I think of it more as commercial space, whether it's, you know, a not-for-profit or just store of some sort, cafe, restaurant like they pitch. So my fear would be to, you know, go to town meeting and propose, you know, let me just state, both of these projects are great. And I agree with you, Steve, that they both will be very beneficial for Housatonic. my concern would be, to take maybe a safer bet to get it through, and kind of like what Ed was hinting to, maybe the historic tax credit doesn't come through for them, and we're back in, and or costs go up. So the $2 million going to town meeting, I understand that is a concern, and a bridge we would cross if we have to go that way, but I guess as far as this budgeting goes, I'm not opposed to shooting for the stars and getting what I've heard discussed the most for this school. And it is an exciting layout that they have, and just the total renovation around the building, and just looking to maximize the benefits from the building. Affordable housing has been a discussion for that building, as well, as far as just general housing, workforce housing. So yeah, that's just kind of my general statement on that. I feel I do understand WDM has been in the area, probably knows. I guess I'm worried the historic tax credit, and then just 165 a square foot just does make me nervous. So I repeat that just for the fact of, at the end of the day, if the town ends up being on the hook for 2 million for both projects, I just think the 276 is probably a closer per square foot, in my opinion. So.
So I think, we're very fortunate to have two really strong proposals, and I'm thrilled that we're, as a board member, it's landed here, because I know it's gone through many, many years and iterations. So I'm very thankful that we have two to choose from. What I will say, I have some concerns. First of all, what I say is, I've done a lot of research into David Carver, and I've seen what he's developed. He's, I think, been developing since the 1980s. He's done the St. Mary's development. He worked on the W.D. Plunkett Hospital, converting that into condos, Tyler Street Fire Station. So all his work has been really, really quality work, spot on, as far as I've seen, have come into budget, and the residents that have lived in these developments have been very, very happy. And I've known his work working in development with Eagle Mill, so I was very familiar with some of his work. So for me, he's proven time and time again that he knows his stuff. What I will say is, Rhett, I'm a bit hesitant about the commercial space and not having that nailed down. When I look at the 5,500 square feet of space in the basement, and the fact that it's kind of open, and they're looking at developing that for $6 a square foot, which is, I don't know how they would do that. So for me, it seems like it's more wishful thinking, and that makes me really nervous. I'd love to have that be commercial space, but I almost feel that that's almost like a carrot saying, hey, we'll do this. And I don't really feel confident that that could actually work. There's a lot of excavation that has to be done. The work in a dark basement, would they actually have tenants that want to move in there? So for me, that's kind of one of these things that it's more wishful thinking, and without knowing that they can actually develop that for $6 a square foot, I am hesitant to take a bite of that and hope that that proves that's something that they can do. And I also worry about going to town meeting for the $2 million. I think that is one thing that, we could go to town meeting, but we have no idea how that's going to pan out. And for all we know, it could land back on our plate. With the historic tax credits, Dave Carver and his company, WDM, they have had much success seeking and achieving historic tax credits. So they're not an unknown entity. And I believe that if they felt that it wasn't attainable, they wouldn't go for this. So, but my big real hesitancy is number one, the town meeting vote and the commercial space that's left open-ended. And I really don't see how that they could develop it for $6 a square foot. So as much as I agree with Eric about, I would love to have commercial space. I'm very, very nervous about having that open-ended and assuming that that would come to fruition.
You want to move on to the next one? I think we crossed borders a little bit.
Hold on a second.
Okay, you got something, Garfield? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just waiting for other people to speak.
Very polite of you.
I'm polite now.
I knew that.
All right. I'm concerned about the $2 million that Arenti wants or is asking for. That bothers me, but at the same point. I like the fact that they're going to have some affordable units that to me seem affordable at $984. And there's gonna be studio, but it'll be meet the AMI. So that I kind of like, but I don't like the fact that it's gonna be, that we'd have to ask the town, we'd have to pay that much money, so that kind of gets in my way. I like the WDM, although truthfully, I'm not a money man by no means. But affordable at $1,765 doesn't seem affordable to myself. I own a home and mortgage is never that high at any point. That seems like a lot of money. And I'm concerned a little bit about the drinking water. It was not discussed by them. And that's a big issue at the time. So I think they should probably, that needs to be looked at before I would say yes. But I would be leaning a little bit more toward them, believe it or not, than they're already.
Thank you, Garfield.
And just to clarify a few things, the both projects include affordable units. On the Arret side, the units are a little bit smaller, so the rents would be lower. And at a lower income level. And on the WDM side, it's still quote an affordable rent. They're larger units, but it's still affordable. Both companies did do a lot of research in terms of looking at the building and getting costs and having professionals look at it. So if that is useful information, I'll put that out there. I think Steve, we've crossed borders here a little bit into the second criteria, which is operational capability. And this goes a little bit towards how do they manage the space, how do they lease up the space to keep it a successful development. This goes to the not only the commercial questions that you had, but the apartments in general. And how they can operate the building and the property to achieve the benefits that they are saying that they will deliver to the village and to the community.
Yeah, the commercial space is a concern of mine.
Yes.
In an ideal world, the commercial space would be wonderful. And I go back to, there was a Housatonic school committee that met 12 or 13 years ago, wanted a public-private partnership. They wanted maybe a shared kitchen space. And the problem has always been cost, how. And there's no guarantees, and it's too soon for a rep to come to us with a signed contract for anyone, so it's not their fault, but we've known over the years that it's very hard to find anyone who wants to use that space. And if they do, I'm not sure it's gonna meet what people think it will, like a nonprofit, which would have different groups in there, etc. Most nonprofits probably aren't gonna are where they are because that's what they can afford. And I'm not sure that they're gonna want to do this or move into this. And I do have concerns about that one space. And if they don't find someone, then what?
I have concerns as well.
Yeah.
I think just the complete revamping that they're talking about as far as digging out around it and the gardens they're talking about putting in and the, even the idea of the pop-up tents for all the promotions that could go on there. I think if you walked into that basement, like I'm sure most of us have in the last handful of years, yeah, it's probably hard to see. The possibilities there, but just the talk of having it become walkout, the natural light that would be coming in from those windows being, you know, twice the size and stuff. I think the vision's there, and I think the possibilities are, so. It's, you know, you discuss commercial space when you're adding 14 apartments above it. I mean, it's kind of hard for a commercial person, whether it's a not-for-profit, you know, that's not determined, but you know, an old detached sort of store or something like that, you know, I don't find it that far off to believe that it could be very possible in this space. So.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still, and again, I see that for the drinking water on the rec side, if there's filtration. Budget permitted, what happens if the budget is not permitted that? And I wouldn't mind also seeing WDM come back with some information about the drinking water, what you're gonna do about it. It wasn't discussed.
Anyone else under operation?
I have one question, Chris. I don't have the Arrette's budget in front of me, but do you have a sense of what they would need to break even for their commercial space to make it work? I see how much they're saying it would cost to build it that way. Or
I don't know. And if there are critical questions, we can,
yeah,
we can ask them, we'll have to research this on your behalf.
yeah, I guess my thought is it's quite costly to, you know, the beautiful vision, but it actually, you know, it's expensive vision. So they're gonna actually have to make sure that they you know, get their money back. So I would think the rent's gonna be quite high in that space. And is it realistic is my question. So I would like to see that. And you know, it might be in their budget. I just don't have it right in front of me, but you know, is it a realistic budget?
What I had said when you were out of the room was that my aspirational goal is that we vote tonight, but if there are questions that stop us from voting tonight, then we could come back in a month.
Not exactly.
It might be in the budget though, so I could probably dig deep if you have it in front of you. I
It
could
is.
look.
It is.
It is?
$6 a square foot.
That's what they're charging?
Rent.
Okay, so that's what I had, $6 a square foot. So my question is, that's incredibly low, and I don't know of any commercial space that you could get that. I mean, I don't know how they make the numbers work on that.
Well, and I could be mistaken, and it would be a good question to ask them, but I was thinking that they said that they were gonna build out the envelope of the structure for the commercial space, and then whoever was to take it on would do their build out
Okay.
accordingly.
So that's interesting.
To how
Yeah.
they want it, because they have no idea what
Okay.
what company.
So that gives me more concern because, you know, I have some experience with that and, you know, again, that can be wishful thinking. I mean, it'd be great to have a vanilla shell and then you say, okay, well, you know, you come in and do everything. And do we actually have those possible tenants to come in with that financial capacity to come in and build out the space? So I think, you know, that actually adds to my concern. And I think that's a really big red herring for me. So I don't need to have more information.
I'm not sure I would really want to vote tonight, and I really would love to find out what we're going to do. Already, if they don't have it in their budget, and I also would really like to know what WDM plans on doing. if they have
With the
to
water?
do it, right? So it says not, that we drinking water not discussed, WDM, and the others are saying that the drinking water will have a filtration budget permitting. But it's not permitted, what does that mean? Yeah, I'd like to know. I don't want to vote tonight, so.
Talk on this one.
Ed, do you have anything to say on this one? No?
No.
On to site and building design. And I would just say that I would prefer to vote tonight, but if there are questions, I'm not concerned about the water, because they're gonna have to do something about it. And that can be part of our negotiation with whoever we award the RFP to.
The next area of discussion is site and building design. The select board is seeking a reuse and development of the property that incorporates and preserves the features of the building to remain consistent with the character of the village. And the first bullet here under highly advantageous is looking for a superior proposed design evaluated on how well it complies with the requirements of the RFP, including preserving the building and its significant features and being compatible with adjacent uses. Responding to site conditions, anticipating and addressing likely design requirements of public agencies. In this case, it might be like, for example, the Mass Historical Commission related to tax credits and preservation. So that's what they mean. Seeking public agencies. Do they know what they're getting into? Presents architectural merit in the interior and exterior. It analyzes the zoning and regulatory changes required, then, and the ability to file the applications to defend to get those changes if needed. And finally, meeting LEED standards for high quality environmental performance. So those are all of the types of aspects that could get you to a highly advantageous proposal under site and building design. We talked about some of these things. Sorry.
Yeah. So with regard to pursuing historic tax credits, you know, I feel more confident that the historic nature of the building would be really looked after more so if Mass Historic was had oversight of it. And this is talking WDM, you know, telling us that they were going to pursue historic tax credits. Because if that did happen, we would have Mass Historic and we would actually be assured that they are going to stand by the preservation of the exterior. Whereas with ART, thank you. Thanks. Sorry. You know, they state that there's going to be historic preservation of exterior, but that's all we have. I mean, so what happens if hypothetically their budget, you know, retracts and they have to make, you know, difficult choices between certain windows or keeping historic preservation? So that makes me a little bit nervous.
Guess there's a hand up and I'll take public comment when the select board's done with their discussion, so.
The duration of the time. Is that under what we're speaking about right now?
Site and building design.
Site and building. You know, going back between the two of them, I do appreciate WDM's, you know, they went simple on the outside, and I appreciate, you know, I like that one side in their proposal. I like both proposals. I like WMD's keeping that one side soft and grass. But Areti there with their ambitious side, you know, with all the trees and the landscape on the hard side of the school on the back side, I think is great. And I think that gives a lot of impact with tying it in together and changing that portion of the town center. And then the other site stuff that they were doing off the pop-up tents, the community sort of barbecue space off the back. I see that whole plan, you know, it's you know, shooting for the stars and just going for the best option. And I do feel that would really tie in the downtown center, you know, so. I like that they took the time to create that whole section and even talk about plantings into the back behind the Hoosie Dome and you know, just having the tents up there. And I think even in their notes, they talked about it, you know, being involved with community stuff, like the farmers markets and stuff that we have going now. So I do understand completely what you're saying about the historic tax credits though. I believe the difference there is that Arret said that they were trying to they would be up for looking for different funding sources. But they were under the impression that the town was looking to get the quickest resolution for the building, get it online as soon as possible, so. From Kate and I forget, one of the gentlemen seemed to say that they're not opposed to going for it, but this is start to finish, I think 18 months, it says. With when WDM, it's a year of them working on getting the historic tax credit. And then I'm not too sure if we know how much longer it is after that, so. I guess just tying that all in together. Just how much beneficial it would be for the time differences from start to finish. While the momentum is going, you know, we got a hotel down there that they're still trying to source funding and stuff in a different school, and I guess the excitement of them, yes, towns putting up more money, but them giving us a guarantee that start to finish, we're done, people are moving in, life's happening in 18 months is worth the money, in my opinion, I think, so.
I'd like to see that. So, you know, I would love to see it sped up and, you know, finished quickly, but again, we have this kind of red herring of this commercial space. And, you know, are they actually going to, you know, be able to develop it? And if they have this vanilla shell or this open space, who's going to actually move in and, you know, put the money towards it? So, you know, in theory, we could have the residents, the units above ready to go. And then we could have this empty space sitting there for God knows how long, waiting for someone to come in and finish that work. So that's a huge concern for me. The other thing I will say is, again, you know, Dave Carver's work speaks for itself. And if you've ever been in any of his buildings, I mean, it's quality work. He's got a crew, he's in and out, you know, and, you know, I don't work for him. So I think it sounds like I work for him. But no, I mean, just working in development, you know, I'm very, very familiar with his work, and he's spot on. He, you know, stays within budget from what I've heard. And it is quality work, and I've spoken to tenants and they're extremely happy. He keeps the high windows, and so it's very straightforward. So I think the fact that he doesn't have the pop-up tents and the landscaping, you know, that doesn't mean he can't do it. You know, we still own the land as a town. We still own the park. We still have the Housatonic School. I mean, the Hoosie Dome. So it doesn't mean that there's not going to be any, you know, flexibility and, you know, interaction between the space, because as a town, you know, we're enveloping that, you know, we have our arms around it. So I can't see it just being, you know, cut off from the community, because it isn't. We're going to have, you know, if this goes through, we'll have 10 families in the heart of Housatonic with kids. So I don't really see it as a negative. Although I would love to have commercial space, it just makes me really nervous having that that opening and that chance of it not working out. And if it doesn't, then we're stuck with this space, and they might come back to us wanting to turn that into to rental units. So again, I feel you know, very, very hesitant, as you probably can tell, with not having that section addressed.
Next is purchase price or rent. I think you always have to.
I see that Jeff from Arret is there, and you know, it's important if there's something that he needs to clarify, if we've misstated anything, it's probably important that.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead. Jeff, you're unmuted.
I can always check back in with both teams after this and make sure that.
Is it all now?
Yeah, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh, hi everyone. Sorry, yes, I wasn't. I hope it's not the appropriate venue. So if it's inappropriate to speak up, please advise, or if we can't present new information or whatever the case is. But I just wanted to be clear, because there was some confusion. The $6 a foot, as outlined, was for the rent. It's for the expected anticipated rent of a tenant. It's not for our costs to build out. So we specifically put in a very low price point on the rent so that getting a tenant into that space would not be cumbersome and would be feasible for somebody of the type of commercial tenant that we're going to be looking for. So in other words, we're going to be saying effectively, you know, here's a 5,000 to 5,500 square foot space for, you know, a $3,000 a month rent, which still may be a bit high, but the way the project is structured, it's structured in such a way that the reason why the ask from the select board from the town is so great is to effectively partially subsidize that, so that we're not expecting a gigantic rent from that basement. Because if we put in, you know, okay, well, we're going to build this as Eric was saying, you know, with letting in all that natural light and building out the side, and having it be more of a ground level than a basement after that portion of the renovation is done, rather than you know, asking for what that could be, in air quotes, worth on whatever, you know, open market we're talking about. We're gonna have an expectation for that rent that's low enough that whoever is the right fit, that will use the space with the right intent and the right spirit for what we're trying to do, will be able to afford it. So I just wanted to clarify that. As far as the cost to build it out, yes, there's a line item in the budget for us to build it out. I actually don't have the budget in front of me myself, but I believe we put in $250,000 strictly for the basement and for the clean shell only. Okay,
Thank you, Jeff, for the clarification.
Hope that helps clarify.
Thank you. Okay, purchase price and rent, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think there's really no effective difference on criteria for the purchase price and rent. You know, they're both seeking a building at low to no cost, and, you know, delivering, you know, in one case, a mixed use building to the town, in the other case, residential building to the town. So this is, you know, if you had two really differing price points, you would try to consider what you're getting as a whole for both prices. Like one is $1 and one is $1,000.
Is that's not where we start? Do we not factor in the 600,000 versus the 2,700,000?
This is you can the criteria is the highest possible purchase price with a proposal that is consistent with the intent in terms of the RFP. The next criterion talks about financial benefits and otherwise, where, you know, if you want to talk more about fiscal impact, maybe that'd be the place that I guess it's not totally clear.
Yeah, I think 5 would be the place. Go ahead.
That's all.
Okay. I think you could move on to 5.
Neither place.
You know, unless you want to debate 4.
Between $1 and $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question for Mr. Glickman, if he's still
Let's. That's what we're doing.
Oh, okay.
So the last criterion is financial benefits or otherwise, and it explicitly states, while the town wishes to maximize the purchase price, it is also concerned about other benefits that the project can provide for the town and the neighborhood. Is not required to sell or lease the premises to the proposer offering the highest price. So we're talking about maximizing the benefits and having a positive impact on the town and the neighborhood, expressed, for example, in terms of jobs created or retained, related local investment generated, tax revenue or rent payments to the town, factors such as that. So Ed, maybe that.
Either place.
Okay.
It's on most of these criteria, I think it's very close. If I had to, you know, rate them all 1 to 5, rate them both 1 to 5 on each. This one's not. And I know it's not our only criteria, but first of all, I'm not sure I prefer smaller apartments in a mixed-use space to large 2-bedroom apartments. But the $2 million to me is been the stumbling block. This is the one where I think it's not close.
So if you're set, and I guess
yeah.
in this, it is, you know, it's pretty clear with their rent one, it's 2.7 million they're asking. But in the WDM one, it is 650, which was technically somewhat offered in the RFP.
And it
but
is already
also-
budgeted.
It is budgeted.
Yeah, the money's available.
Yeah, and also it is plus environmental, right? So that is, I'm gonna steal the number from the other side, but it's 400,000 is the estimate, I guess we're assuming for the environmental cleanup. So. It is close to two, so that gets us to 1 million, so there is still, and then the looking for tax agreements, which it's, possibility on both sides, I guess, but it's stated that there is one for WDM. So I think that number shrinks down, and we're into, 1 million plus as far as difference goes. Maybe 1.25 million if I'm adding correctly and fast in my head. So that's that's the difference there. There obviously is a difference, but at the end of the day, I'm still, I guess that comes back to my question of the square foot price. And if it does run over budget, who's picking that cost up? And will it end up costing the town $2.7 million with whichever company we choose? And if that is the case, then I would go with the grander, what I view as the grander picture, and the complete overhaul of that building and mixed use, affordable housing, landscaping. So.
Yeah, I do agree with most of what you say, but if WDM comes back to us, it's clearly we can say no.
Right.
And not even bring it to the town meeting, just like we could do with this one, because, we're selling under these terms. I guess I understand your concern and respect it because you're in the trades, but I also know that, as I said before, they work in Berkshire County. So I would hope that they have a really good idea of what it costs to build in Berkshire County. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on that. Lee, go ahead.
So I had a question for Jeff Blickman. I don't know, can you still hear me? So a question about the commercial again. So you mentioned that you might have $250,000 directed towards creating that, vanilla shell, creating that space that someone would then need to come into and put more money into it to make it workable. Is that true? Is that
Correct.
Is that
Correct.
okay? So my question is, I'm looking at your budget and it says 7,000 square feet. So I guess to Eric's point, or not to your point, but since you're a contractor, for someone to come in, let's say a tenant, and they're given 7,000 square feet to, create a space to build it out, how much would a tenant need to have to come up with to do that? And is that realistic? Like, do we have someone that's going to come in and put, $500,000 just into a rental?
So first off, just to clarify, the basement is slightly smaller because of the nature of foundational walls, but also about 1,000 to 1,500 square feet of the space is being committed to the building's mechanical. So ultimately, I don't want to pick at straws or whatever, split hairs, but ultimately the final space for a commercial tenant will be closer to 5,500 square feet. Okay, so our version of a clean shell is it's still a clean shell, as you say vanilla box, that's 100%, but we're talking about a substantially finished clean shell. So it will have nice surfaces, effectively a kind of an industrial look that, depending on the use case, it would really depend on how they wanted to fit it out. A fit out in such a space could be, if it was an art gallery or an art space or whatever the case was, could be, which I'm not suggesting it will be, but I mean, if it was, could be done for as little as, certainly below 100,000, if not below 50,000. mainly lighting, a few false barriers to allow for breakup of the space, et cetera, and then put in your actual furnishings, not even finishings. For somebody else to do, if it was a gym, which again, I'm not saying it would be, but it could be, there's those fit outs can be done for, certainly less than, $50 a foot or less. So these types of fit outs would not be so cumbersome depending on the actual tenant and what their aims are. So I'm trying to I hope that gives you a slightly better informed picture as to what
Yeah, no, absolutely. So following up with that.
Yes.
So what we've seen in Great Barrington is that the commercial rents are so expensive that the people that can afford them are cannabis shops, realtors, lawyers, insurance. So what my question is, what if, we don't have a tenant that's willing to, that actually needs a fit out that they can't afford, and then, we're left with that pool that has the ability to use that space. And is that what the community wants? So it's one of these things that we all want something that's going to serve the community, but in theory or in reality, we don't really know what commercial tenant will move in there, because they're going to have to come in and fit this out for a high price. So, again, that's kind of an open-ended question. We don't really have a guarantee of who's going to be in that space and who can afford it. So that's just a concern of mine, that we don't have that answer, and it could really, at the end of the day, be anyone. So
no, and our team fully appreciates your concern on that, and I wouldn't presume to tell you that it's not a concern. That having been said, what I would tell you is that our team over at Housatonic Realty with Suzanne Ward and Claire Shumfy have been doing already, sort of beating the ground and hitting the streets, but spreading the word around, beating the drum, and looking for the right partnership. And I'm using the word partnership again with air quotes, because effectively it is, to try and find the right group to fill this space. And your concern is valid. I wouldn't presume to tell you it's not. We certainly don't look forward to coming back to the town and saying, well, we have an offer from a dispensary, and we wouldn't do that. It's more so that because, again, the way we structured it is that our anticipated rents from the space is low enough, we feel confident that we can find a partner who will suit the use case that we're looking for, and that we can work cooperatively to bring them in there and have them run their business or their not-for-profit out of there successfully, and tie it into the event space that we'd like to run out of the exterior of the building when required. So
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Thank you. Before I take public comment, and I'm sure there will be something. Robert, do you have anything you want to say? I gave Jeff a chance.
Simply, just again, this was several times.
Robert's from the WDM team, just
Berkshire Design. Just that, the most recent project we completed was the fire station. That was 6 weeks from demolition. The city gave up on it. They were going to demolish it. We approached the city. It was in far worse condition than the Housatonic School, and it was completed. It had people living in it in less than a month. So, we have a track record, and we know the cost. The fire station, which only was just got its certificate of occupancy less than 2 weeks ago, that current was right on the heels of St. Mary's, 29 units. So again, I just want to express the confidence we have in our knowledge of the cost of this development.
And that project, which just for the record, my grandmother's house is right around the corner from there, so I've been watching that building for a while. But in that project, you're saying came in at $166 a square foot?
I don't know, I know that, there were, as I said, it was 6 weeks from demolition.
Yeah.
We had to put a new roof on it.
Yeah.
Not just re-roof it, but, new structure. So I don't know exactly what it came in per square foot, but again, it was, the cost that we're projecting on this project is based on this project, and what needs to be done. And our confidence that we know what it's gonna cost to get that done. But I don't know that the per square foot cost in each project is comparable, it depends on. And in this case, we had other sources of funding.
In with those projects up there, where's in St. Mary's and stuff, was the assistance from Pittsfield similar to this, or was it historic tax credits, or?
So with St. Mary's in particular, it was in an incentive zone, and so we were eligible for what they call HDIP funding, which was pretty significant in that project, which again, it took, 6 to 8 months to secure. But we were successful in getting it. There was the same tax relief for both projects actually that we're asking the town for the incremental increase in taxes in both cases, because neither one of those properties were on the tax rolls at all as additional pools that have been on tax rolls. So it's not that we were asking the city to take money back, we're just asking them to slowly start the process of getting money at all.
Any public comment? Go ahead.
Angela Lamonto, 326 North Plain Road. I just have a question for all of you, and it has to do with numbers, so I hope I'm not catching you off guard. But when I look at RTA's funding sources, the 650 that we're talking about for the envelope of the building is sort of a given for both groups, correct?
Right.
So what's going on? Then they're saying that their town contribution would be 650, which is that envelope number. And then environmental contribution 350. And affordable housing contribution 600. So if I look at that, they're really only asking for $950,000. They're gonna finance 22,700,000. Is that correct?
I think it was 1.6 million plus around about $400,000 for environmental, which is just a ballpark estimate. Plus 600,000 for housing. And I think we heard from the team before that, regardless of if we say 600 is for housing or 600 is for this, the total amount that a rep would look from the town in order to make the project possible is 2.7 million. That would include that 60.
Yeah, I guess I'm just asking where you're getting that number from, because it doesn't add up. I'm looking at their sources of funding,
Okay,
and I'm seeing that 2.7 million is financed.
and
Maybe there's a different budget that
maybe there is, and I can go back and I can also clarify with the proposer just to make sure that we're.
That wasn't the
getting
number they
this correct.
used, so we can clarify.
Yeah, if that, because I think in my mind, what you're looking at is $1.1 million in tax credits for WDM versus less than $1 million in the town contributing to RTA. And you're not.
It was 2.7, but we'll get that clarified.
Okay, all right. That was my only question. Because
Okay.
that's confusing based on what I have.
Thank you. We'll get that clarified. Louise Goldsmith. Just unmute yourself, it appears you are. No, just unmute yourself.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Great, yeah, so in terms of the.
Name and
proposal-
address, please.
Oh, Paul Carrara, 1026 Main Street, Housatonic. Okay, great. Just on a larger, larger thought is that in terms of redeveloping the building, is it more to be just kind of a suburb of Great Barrington, or having a cultural center or something in Housatonic that people could attend to? And that's why I kind of favor the mixed use building. I do share the concerns about the feasibility of this space, and I think one should ask in the vanilla shell if they're going for somebody who's more maybe commercial in terms of food and beverage, whether there's in the vanilla shell, there are bathrooms included, if they have ventilation for a hood, makeup air and draw air, certain things that if you're going to try to develop it into a commercial space for a food and beverage establishment, something where people could come in, a cafe and whatnot, is important to look at in terms of their financing. I prefer the mixed use because I think it'll be a great use for Housatonic, and I would love to have more traffic and more people come into it. But I do concern that the feasibility of it and the tenant improvement money that they might provide besides the low rent that they're saying. Usually, I've been in a restaurant business. I've opened 5 restaurants, and anytime I negotiate a lease, I look for TI money, which is tenant improvement money, to build it out, because if I do fail, they get all the improvements. It's a fixed use. So just if that could be developed more when you make your decision, again, with the feasibility of the commercial space, because while it'd be great, no one wants an empty space in the bottom floor for a long time. So that was my only kind of concerns.
Thank you very much.
One other thing, in terms of their low subsidized housing, they were mentioning only the 4 studios be subsidized. And I think that breakout's not great, because a lot of families, especially a parent with a single child, they should look into maybe 2 of the studios low subsidized and one bedroom or 1 2-bedroom. Just having the studios being what's this term? Low income rate is not, I don't think it's great. I think they should be able to move that into a parent with a single child, maybe the 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms, so there is some kind of mixed use into the low income housing ratio that they're proposing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Chris.
I can clarify Angela's question on the 2.7 million. I think originally, in the original proposal, it was a lower request from the town. As the proposals were refined and the teams came back to the board, Arette looked at the feasibility and they updated their numbers in the later presentation and said 2.7 is what they would need from the town to bring that project to be a feasible project.
And that includes the 650 that's already earmarked.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Ben.
Ben Elliott, 208 Pleasant Street, this time. A few questions. One, I'm just curious, Chris, on something you mentioned before, what exactly is the definition of affordable housing in Great Barrington?
Housing that is affordable is something that a household isn't spending more than 30% of their income on, and it depends on how affordable you want to make it. So there are different targets. Some say that we will target a household that makes at a very low income, like 30% of the area median income. And so obviously the rent at that level would be very, very low. Right. And some are 100%. I don't have those numbers in my head at the moment.
But I believe WDM is targeting 70 to possibly up to 100% on page 9, is that correct?
Correct. So they would be affordable enough the household's not spending more than 30% of the income, but it's obviously a higher.
It's not, right? You would have to have a household income of roughly 70,000 or above in order to meet that affordable.
That's pretty close, yeah.
Thanks. I was just curious about that. So I just want to say thank you for the discussion tonight. You've all raised a lot of comments and concerns that I've had about both these proposals. I think there's a lot of benefits to both of them, but I also think there's a lot to do some further research on. One thing, I brought it up when Arette gave their presentation, but in the criteria for number three is one of the things whether or not it would actually pass planning board approval.
It discusses planning and zoning.
So, and tell me if I'm understanding zoning bylaw correctly, but with a mixed use building, you know, their proposal of having 15 spots, you know, just one per unit. Yes, that in a mixed unit, you can have one per unit, one spot per unit. But the idea is that the parking for the business would help, you know, and then in non-peak hours of business that the residents could use the business parking. And that's what offsets it and allows it to work. So I just really don't think that their current plan is what we would end up seeing. You know, I don't think it would pass the board. So I have a lot of concerns about, you know, talking about their aspirationals and how far they'll actually get. Even just outside of the budget, I don't think we would see that beautiful design that they presented actually come to fruition. I think the WM proposal is far more realistic. I don't think it's as exciting as we've all kind of said. I question, you know, the criteria 5. I know we're talking about the financial benefit to the town, but the financial benefit just to the economy of this time. What it does to have this private residential unit in between the pieces of public land in a village where we don't really have that much walkable business or public transportation. And one thing that I'm really curious about, has there been any research on what effect to rental market a development, either development like this would have on, you know, other rents outside of this development? What it might kind of, you know, push the needle if this is a comparable unit? No. Just like again, speaking of the fact that it's parking people making 7% AMI, I know a lot of my neighbors who rent are not in that range. So if we are doing a development, that kind of pushes, you know, the market in one of the last affordable parts of town in this direction. What impact is that going to have on people who live in the village years at a far lower rate? Just saying, personal, I rented in Housatonic and I rented in New York City. The prices that both of these developments are proposing are more in line with what I paid in New York than whatever I paid this time. But it's been a while. But my main question in the negotiation moving forward, there's a few things I'm wondering if we could do, and or if there's an appetite to do it. One, this idea of, you know, kind of the by tapping it at the AMI, that it's going to be workforce housing, right? I mean, you use that term.
Yeah.
Could we put, I don't know if it would be a deed restriction as part of the negotiation that say residents, at least one resident in each unit has to actually be a resident of Great Barrington. That like, if this is going to be essentially workforce housing, that it's housing our workforce, you know, so it's not just someone's second home coming in from, you know, I know like a lot of the tenants at the top of Railroad Street, essentially second home apartments. Is there a way that we can make sure that these will actually be families that live in the community? One of my really big concerns is, you know, this is my elementary school. My middle school is currently sitting down the street in private hands. They ran out of money, correct?
Supposed to break ground now in the spring, who knows?
Right. Is there any way we could say, you know, if certain milestones aren't met by, you know, agreed part of the timeline, then they would have to come back, you know, to essentially meet with the board, get approval that once you sign this agreement, it's not completely out of the town's hands. Is that a possibility?
Yeah. Yes.
And we talked about the design approval for a red and the fact that, you know, they say they want to keep it historic, but there's not really any, they could change it, right, unless we have something in our agreement. So, but the last big thing is just asking that there is constant communication between the other developer and the community. I know a big concern for me and my wife and some of our other neighbors who have children who live in the area is about the, you know, environmental concerns and the abatement of the lead and asbestos. Just to make sure that whenever you sign this deal, it doesn't just go off and then we don't hear about what's happening. that there is some sort of accountability, there's updates, if we can get that in writing, that they actually have to kind of, you know, maybe have some sort of semi-regular meeting with community members after Lucy Dome, kind of update and let us know what's going on and what they're doing. So,
That's fair.
and those are my thoughts.
Okay, thanks. So, what's that?
I just saying, I wanted to do that.
So unless, Karen, quickly, we're about to move on. Go ahead, Sharon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sharon Gregory, Hollenbeck Avenue. Housatonic School is a really important building and a really important place. And it's been under consideration for over 12 years. So I like the idea that there's a possibility of mixed use there and that it could be a center point for revitalization of the town. Is there a possibility that the select board could codify some things that you don't want it to be? For example, a dispensary, either as a tenant or a sublet or whatever, the things that would not contribute to the the vitalization that I know a number of people would like. So that's a question.
We'll consider, Sharon. I'm not.
Thank you.
Going to answer that right now. Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Apparently not. Okay. When I heard from Garfield, he wants to, there's some questions that Chris could look into. So I think that we're going to come back the last meeting in December and vote on this. Is that okay with the rest of the board?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. We don't have everyone here in the first meeting in December, so I'll make sure everyone's here. Okay.
And that the date is the
19. Wait, you're gonna answer that. There easier question for me, yeah, the 19th,
okay, December 19th.
December 19th.
Steve, I guess I just want to say before we drop the subject for tonight is, I think both options are great options for the town. I guess and I realize they're both, one might be considered a bigger lift than the other on the town side, but I just want everybody to keep in mind, not just the next few budget cycles, but the long-term goal and just the long-term benefits. And I say that with knowing a lot of other looming capital projects we have hanging in the background, I'm not gonna lie. We're talking about the water situation, and that's gonna, at some point, most likely cost us money. We have a new school that we're hopefully gonna make happen. I understand these things, and I just want everybody to just keep in mind, not just the next few years and budget cycles, but also, the next 20, 30 years of our town, when we're deciding it. So.
I did actually, one last thing before we end tonight, because there was a discussion in area median income and workforce housing versus affordable housing. I mean, we need housing, we need housing that's on the lower income scale. We also need housing for staff. We need housing to keep our businesses vibrant and sustainable and open. So, both of them offer different types of housing, but what I would say with the workforce housing that one project is focusing on, the area median income, the 100% area median income for one person is $64,470 for one person. So that's 100% area median income. For a family of four, it's $92,100. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is that workforce housing, we have a dire need for that. And so, to focus solely on affordable housing is wonderful, but we also need to keep our businesses open and sustainable. So I think there's a lot of latitude right there to focus on the 30%, 40%, 50% AMI, but also don't forget about those that, miss out of the affordable housing and the other subsidies that are available, Because, that's what keeps our town sustainable and open and keeps the economic engine going. So I don't want to, forget the need for workforce housing.
So let me finish because I can. Something Ben said, which is, I think you'll agree with, you said that give preference to people who live in Great Barrington. I just want to give preference to people who work in Great Barrington. They may not live here because they can't afford to, can't find a place. But if they live here, if they work here, that's really what.
Yeah, I mean, if we can make sure that whatever the rate of these apartments actually matches the real market rate for people that work in this town. So, I mean, if you can set a price that people outside who don't work here come in and fill whatever reason, it kind of skews it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but because you point out if it was a second home, which, might be unusual, that's not what our goal is. That's clear. So, okay, let's just.
So the 19th is the first day of Hanukkah, that's not. I know it's.
We have a meeting scheduled. Ed, are you okay with the first day of Hanukkah?
Yes, I'm fine, thanks.
We can light candles before the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we're still not done. ARPA round 2, executive summary from staff. Chris.
Okay. Earlier this year, the board voted to program. Robert.
A little hard to hear.
Earlier this year, the board voted to program about 50% or so of the allocation of federal recovery funds towards 4 areas: affordable housing, the fire department, health department, and ambulance. There's still about $1,040,000 left, actually. A little bit less than that, $92 less than that, of ARPA funds that the town has that you have not given priority to. So staff, namely the town manager and I, are coming to you with a recommendation tonight to program the rest of those funds. And that is according to the proposals that the town received in September after we issued a request for grant proposals from local nonprofits. We were receiving proposals for projects that would benefit primarily Great Barrington residents in any ARPA eligible category. It could be housing, it could be food assistance, it could be anything. We received quite a bit of proposals, quite a number of proposals for quite a bit of funding. And we are proposing to you to allocate the remaining $1,040,000 in the following ways. First of all, $540,000 towards affordable housing, $200,000 to food and household assistance, and $300,000 towards healthcare. We have not chosen specific proposals to fund, and nor are we putting those in front of you. We are just seeking your guidance to allocate the funds into these categories, and then the town manager and I will go ahead and award the projects that we think best meet the proposals invitation proposals that we put out. Happy to answer any questions or concerns you have.
I guess just a question as far as which project would fall in, but on like fuel assistance or anything like that, would that fall in to any of these categories? Would that be considered under an affordable housing situation, or is affordable in this particular case? Is affordable housing just strictly creating more housing or making?
It's really about creating or preserving existing affordable housing. Fuel assistance would be in that second category of food and household assistance.
Okay.
I'm a little confused. There's one section here, or with the executive summary where it says affordable housing, 850,000.
That's the last one that we accepted.
That's what you did earlier this year. So if you turn the page, that's just a summary of what you did before. The next page has the chart of what we're recommending for this phase of the funds.
I have a motion to accept staff recommendation as highlighted in figure 1.
I make a motion to accept the staff recommendation as highlighted in figure 1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think the suggestions are great. But also the process, so I just want to thank you and Mark, slowing us down, not doing it all at once, I think was a great idea. So you had time to survey nonprofits in the area and see what they need. So I think this is, this makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
We did try to respond to the highest, the survey that we did, and this doesn't commit us to any particular project or proposal that we received, but we think it allocates the funds to the places where there seems to be a great deal of need and would have a lot of benefit.
For sure.
Michelle Louvet, 70 Division Street. I recall with the first one, first issuance of awards of the ARPA grant, that Eric, you asked to have water assistance considered. Now, we just had a lengthy conversation on housing where Garfield brought up the concern regarding quality drinking water. I'm not seeing anything being done here with regard to that, although if it's, you say, fuel assistance would fall under food and household assistance. Would people in the community of Housatonic be able to receive assistance out of these funds for filtration for their water? We're talking about the highest needs for people. Clean water is a basic need.
Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
So I'd like to know that.
I believe the town manager has looked into using ARPA funds for water assistance. I'm not sure that is strictly an eligible expense, but I know that we're still open to all considerations, so.
All right, and I would like to know, and perhaps I missed the meeting, if Eric, you kind of brought this up again. Did you bring up water?
I brought up when we talked about our water and I was they were looking into it, but it didn't seem to meet the criteria, I believe is the answer I got.
Which is shocking to me that this money can't be used, because it says, you look at it, one of the purposes, water and sewer infrastructure, but also responding to public health and economic impacts. It says of COVID-19. So I'm just thinking, you're talking fuel assistance, how that's directly related to COVID-19, where, no offense, we're talking about a fun run in Housatonic, but people may not be able to take a shower afterwards or bathe their babies.
We'll come back with a concrete answer on that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that, because I was coming out of voting a couple weeks ago, and there was several people talking to me that we hear there's this money, and why can't it be used to help the people in Housatonic? Thank you.
If I may say so, I've been beating the drum for that for a while and am still perplexed and not pleased that can't be used for that. And everyone knows that it's not unusual for something to be written into something else, change a few words here and there, makes things compatible to willing to work with them. So that I'm still want to see that money used for Housatonic filtration of water. And I had heard that it could not be, which is, I still find it hard to believe, because you can rewrite things and make them fit.
And I would like, if you're going to vote, if you're unsure, you shouldn't be voting on this.
We can,
So
vote-
I would like an answer.
we
You
can
know,
vote on this because we're voting in categories, so it would fit into one of the categories. It's
but
not
we don't
precluded.
know if it will fit into one of the categories, correct?
Well, we've made these categories, we can fit it into them if it's allowed. to
All
be
right,
fit.
okay, it's your
Yes.
choice.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, if I'm hearing correctly,
Yes.
it's the town of Great Barrington Select Board's choice.
Oh, the
No.
categories are, but not whether it's eligible. Mark has looked into it, so if it's eligible, we'll fit it in, if it's not eligible, we can't do it.
So when will we know that? Will it
Go
be on
for-
an agenda?
December 5th. Okay, we have a motion, a second, roll call vote, Garfield.
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
All right,
Steve.
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous, and we'll put that on December 5th.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We have on the select board's 2023 regular meeting schedule, just in there for information, unless anyone has a question or a concern. At this point in pencil is the annual town meeting on May 1st. We will probably at the next meeting have a little more detail. At this point, it's planned as an indoor, unless something changes. If it's outdoors, we'll have to do it later into June again, so we'll see how that goes. Any questions or comments on that? Citizen speak time. Michelle, go ahead. What's it?
I just have one thing.
No, that's
Well, we
okay.
have select board time too, unless it's about the schedule.
No, not that.
Okay, we have select board time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Michelle Beer, 70 Division Street. I wanted to bring up tonight a couple issues regarding the Division Street Bridge opening. 7 vehicles have witnessed running the red lights. If you drive down to the bridge, you have a clear shot across to the other side. And the lights are red. Cars are sitting there. Boom, right through the red lights. That's a concern. So 2 of which I witnessed this morning when I took a walk. The cars running the red lights. So that needs to be addressed. Secondly, you have a walkway on the bridge, which is great. But when you're coming, you have to cross over. If you're going from my house towards Taft's, you're walking down, well, that's on the rule of thumb is you should walk against traffic. You're fine there, but you're coming back from Taft's, you're on the opposite side. You have to cross over. There's no crosswalk or anything like that. So you're crossing over, you're beyond the light when you do the crossover. That's a hazard as well. Also, if you go onto the walkway towards the end, it's open. You have safety rails, but right there, as you step on, it's open. Now, as a parent, granted, my child is 28 years old now, a parent who's walking with their children on that walkway turns their back for a minute, a child can easily step down into that. That's yet another hazard, which is kind of shocking to me because supposedly everybody looked at this and plotted it. So there's 3 hazards right now that's going on. Number 4 being that when the light turns green and cars are coming up from Taft Farms, they're flooring it. Going down Division Street, particularly, let's see, between 5:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning, they're flooring it. One night I came home from work, I went to my mailbox, I had a flashing light, a car was flying up, I almost got nailed by a car. Yet another hazard. So this has to be looked at more closely. I know everybody's applauding the bridge being open, but there's some hazards there, and I'm bringing them to your attention. We're talking about water tonight, and I just wanted to bring up again the four fire at 4 Mills. I was at Big Y when my phone blew up, that 4 Mills was on fire. And of course, I live across the farm field from 4 Mills. So I was coming down North Plain Road, I see all the fire trucks tapping the fire hydrants on North Plain Road to go back to the 4 Mills fire. So that's really concerning to me because if that had been a massive disaster, what would we have done in our neighborhood? Which brings me yet to another problem. Why in the hell are these companies doing in a residential area? And so I'm just getting really concerned because Mel's has expanded. Bill Nolan's business is picking up. Rogers Trucking appears to be picking up as well, and there seems to be no oversight with regard to this. So I know Town of Great Barrington has a lot on its plates, but it seems like when it comes to oversight, Housatonic is kind of over here.
Thank you,
And I
Michelle.
just want to, thank you.
Anyone else? Select-board, oh, Ben, I'm sorry.
Quick.
Yeah.
Something that I've been only at 208 Pleasant Street, and just. I know this came up at the Tonic Improvement Committee, and I thought Angela said that she might have spoken to Chris about it. But has there been any progress on possibly doing a traffic study on Pleasant Street and the intersections of Pleasant, Main, and Highland and Front Street?
I don't know if that's been requested.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I know you have a lot on your plate, so, worries, but I do think it would be really advantageous to take a look at that.
We'll find out.
It's already kind of, hazardous, and as we move forward with these developments and bring in more traffic to the area, I think it's just something we really need to address.
Okay, we'll find out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Select-board time, Garfield.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I'm having a flashback. Is this a planning board meeting?
Yeah, we don't usually
They're
have long
always like
meetings.
three.
Yeah.
We always say ours is shorter.
Well, I knew tonight wouldn't be.
I
Garfield doesn't want you to speak, so be quiet. He's getting tired.
I guess to Ben's point, I think it was after our electrical inspector got hit on Front in Pleasant that we put in a request. I think it was Mr. Aberdale was just getting ready to step in, so I do think it's been put on his plate there. To look at it.
We'll come back. So I'll let it work.
Yeah.
Ed,
Nothing.
please. Nothing. Media time. Thank you, everyone. By unanimous consent, we are adjourned.